the roll is not closed and it is past midnight.
The roll has not been closed. It is past midnight.
A look back at the 2024 legislative session and what it meant for projects in the northwest suburbs. A bonding bill that could have potentially helped local cities fund projects didn't make the cut, missing a deadline by a matter of seconds. For city officials in Plymouth and Maple Grove, the key word was disappointment.
I'm very disappointed that something didn't get done. I think that there was a lot of good things for Plymouth and other parts of the state as a whole that were primed and ready to go, but when you wait till the last minute, which there's a history of that, not everything gets done.
Plymouth asked for funding and special legislation to help build its city center project. That includes a new ice sheet, a parking ramp, and infrastructure that could help spur development. Plymouth expects to ask for funding again next year. Meanwhile, Maple Grove requested about $16 million to help revamp the city's community center. Mayor Mark Stephenson says the city is now going to look for ways to trim costs.
What they have to do to get it passed is they have to work together, and apparently there wasn't the working together that was necessary to get it passed. So that's disappointing, but that is typical.
Voters approved a half-cent sales tax for the Maple Grove Community Center revamp 2 years ago to fund most of the project. The lack of a bonding bill also impacts Brooklyn Park projects. So what happens next? I caught up with the city's mayor.
Brooklyn Park is very much a part of the American experiment. We have a ton of different cultures coming together.
The city of Brooklyn Park has big plans. Just ask Mayor Hollis Winston.
How do we make sure that we have the infrastructure, that everybody gets along, all heritages are respected, and we've got something for everybody to do?
For the city, infrastructure for everyone means a focus on activities, access, and public safety. That's why the council asked for about $28 million in bonding dollars for the state. Nearly $13 million of that ask was for a revamped central fire station, and another $12 million for the community activity centers, rinks, and courts.
We want to expand it so we can serve more youth, get them on the right path, and make sure they have positive things to do.
But the legislature's bonding bill missed this year's deadline.
We were disappointed. We would have hoped that they could have come to some type of conclusion around that. I think from our perspective, we're going to keep it positive. We're going to say, hey, look, we've got to make some tough decisions as a city.
Winston says on the bright side, bonding dollars weren't going to be their only source for these projects. The city already has $5 million in flexible state funds for the CAC.
How do we pull these different pots together? What do we need to do? And what conversations do we need to have with residents to make sure that we're getting everybody what they need?
Mayor Winston says discussions on where to pull the money from and how to spend it await the Brooklyn Park City Council on June 3rd. Legislation that did pass through the session could have prevented a lengthy, passionate debate that hit the Osseo School District this year. The disagreement stemmed over whether to ban a book, and the decision divided some parents and the Osseo School Board. The Osseo School Board decided to keep the controversial book on Maple Grove High School shelves. A piece of legislation authored by Representative Cedrick Frazier will establish a process to determine whether a book is inappropriate. In today's Newsmakers, Frazier sat down with Shannon Slatton to explain why he calls the legislation a net positive.
It's really about protecting the materials and the books that our students and the broader community has access to. And really, at-risk folks are really just going to read the legislation. It's not about allowing our kids to have books or materials that are inappropriate in the classroom or in our public libraries. It's really about putting a process in place. So every school district will have to have a policy in place on how we evaluate and determine which type of materials and books that we have in our school districts and in our public libraries. And if we decide that those books are inappropriate, they can take the action they need to remove those materials or put them in places where folks that will be able to get to them where it is appropriate for them.
All right, so it's not like everything gets through, it's just that there's a metric almost now.
That's correct. There's a process, there's procedures in place. We have not taken away the ability of parents to come in and say, hey, I think these materials or this curriculum is inappropriate for my kid. I'd like the district to review it and take a look at it. That process is still in place, but we will have some uniformity around the state about how that process and how those procedures play out.
What did you hear from folks about this as you were working on getting it passed?
I mean, the biggest feedback we got were from librarians, from school districts, from school board association and school board members saying, hey, we really just need a tool to make sure that when folks are coming and asking these questions, we have a process laid out. It's transparent. We can use that process, use that tool, and make sure that we're doing the things that we need to do to not only make sure that we don't have books that are inappropriate for our kids, but also to make sure that our kids in our communities have access to the materials that they need to have access to give them broader perspective of what's happening in the community and the world.
And this bill did get past the finish line. What do you think about that?
This bill did. I'm very grateful that it did because as you're watching and you see the things that are happening around the country, it's a tool that's needed, and I think it's something that's going to be really have a net positive impact on our schools and our communities.
All right, Representative Cedrick Frazier, thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
A new scholarship program could give about 20,000 Minnesotans free college tuition this year.
This is a really great and unique opportunity for individuals that thought that, education wasn't in the cards for them because of the financial barriers. Now they have that opportunity to leverage this scholarship program to be able to make that dream a reality.
The North Star Promise program pays the cost of tuition for students at Minnesota's public colleges, including North Hennepin Community College and Hennepin Tech. To be eligible, families need to have an income below $80,000. North Hennepin Community College says about 2,500 people have already applied for the scholarship.
It's a pretty smooth and easy process. The great thing about the North Star Promises is no separate application. It's all students have to do is fill out their FAFSA.
North Star Promise scholarships will be available starting fall 2024. The state legislature created the scholarship last year.